What is going on, everyone? Welcome to the Pivot Mindset Podcast. I am super excited to have you here on yet again another episode. Man, this is technically the last episode of 2021 for us. Wow, this is blowing my mind. We have been being consistent at this podcast thing. This has been a new venture, a new thing for me. But the goal has always been to be able to deliver tons of value to people. And so, man, I'm so thankful that you are here. Kick back, relax. My name is Justin. I am your host today. And here, if you're listening to this podcast for the very first time, we believe that life is all about the pivots. And those who decide to make the pivots decide to become successful. That's why we call this the Pivot Mindset Podcast, because it's all about mindset. No matter what you want to do in life, it's going to first start in the mind. Your mind is the incubator for everything that you will produce. And so having a pivoted mind, being able to make life's pivots, being able to make life's changes, adjustments, etc., will help us all accomplish the kind of life that we're looking to accomplish. And so if I can be your advocate, if I could be your guide to helping you accomplish whatever it is you'd like to accomplish, that's my main goal here. And so, man, I'm just thankful. We're really starting to get some things changing. So this next year for 2022 for the podcast, we're going to start bringing guests on and bringing interviewers on and people that will really be able to bring more conversation and context to the podcast. I want you guys to learn from other people who have made shifts and pivots in their own lives. I don't want to just talk about my own pivots, but I want to allow other people to talk about their shifts, their changes, their adjustments, and how those pivots help them become successful. And so, just super excited for not just where we've been, the consistent feedback we're getting, the re-rating and reviews that people are leaving on the podcast, but also where we're headed. This is really starting to create a momentum around what we're doing and the kind of community that we'd like to build. And so with that, without further ado, let's dive right in. So I've got a cool topic today, and I want to talk about living on the edge of your potential. That's right, living on the edge of your potential. I believe that everybody, if you're listening to my voice, that you have potential. I believe there's nothing that will stop you from accomplishing and being all that your potential is besides you. I believe you are your biggest roadblock to accomplishing everything that you set out in life to accomplish. And these things, your goals, your ambitions, your dreams, what inspire you, these things are all deposited already in you as seed. And a lot of us call that seed potential. Okay. And so there's this word called potential. It's such a powerful word, y'all. It's such a powerful word. This word often is used to try to capture. It does its best. Poor old word. It does its best at trying to capture what you really are or what you really could be. It's often used to quantify the ability someone has, but has not created or done anything with. No one wants to just be potential, right? Like no one wants to just be someone that could possibly create, right? Everyone, their goal is ultimately to be all that they're called to be. And so when someone has potential, it means they've shown flashes of greatness or flashes of brilliance, right? Or it means that they appear to have the raw material or the necessary tools to accomplish something great. I imagine this very much when I think of professional athletes, when I think of maybe NBA players or football players, NFL players. And for example, I think of like LeBron James' career. And, he came right out of high school and started with the Cavaliers in the NBA. And his first game, I believe, was with Toronto. The Toronto Raptors, I believe, was his first NBA game. And he, I believe, scored 17 or 19 points. Fact, check me on that. I don't remember specifically. But in that game, he showed flashes of greatness. He began to show what his potential really could be. We've seen it in high school. We've seen him dunking on high school kids. We've seen him putting up 30-plus points. We've seen him winning a state championship and all that kind of stuff in high school. But at this new level, we really wanted to see what kind of the flashes or what he would begin to show as an NBA player. And it was because of his flashes of brilliance and greatness that we've seen that we begin to say, hey, this guy could really be a great athlete, right? I don't think anyone imagined that he would create the kind of career that he would go on to create. I believe this is season 17 or 18 or something like that for him. Crazy. But there's something about somebody that you could see flashes of greatness or brilliance in that person, right? And so same thing we've seen with Steph Curry when he was very early in his career, undersized guard, Wasn't strong, wasn't dunking on people, but you could see that he clearly had command of the floor. He could dribble really good. His shot was good since day one, and he continued to just perfect his craft. But even in his early years, we could see flashes of greatness. We could see he had abilities and pockets that he could be someone great. But both of those players, both LeBron James and both Steph Curry, in those positions, they were both just potential. They hadn't yet actualized anything yet in their lives, in their career, in their NBA career, but they were all just potential at that moment. And so, has anyone ever told you that you have so much potential? Right? Has anyone ever told you how gifted or talented you are? You see, these statements can be compliments. They're typically known to be compliments, but they can also be curses. That's right. Yeah, these statements, you have so much potential. You are so gifted. You are so talented. These things can also be curses, because I don't know about you, but there's nothing worse than living a life knowing you've got potential, knowing that you are gifted and knowing that you are talented, but not actually doing anything with that potential gift or talent. It could become handcuffs for you when you realize that you got something great on the inside of you, when you realize that you got so much potential, that you got so much skill, that you got so much talent, you got so much ability, but yet you have not created anything or have produced any fruit from those attributes, from that talent, from that potential. And so in this episode, I want to talk to my people who have tons of potential. And to be clear, I believe everybody has tons of potential. But many times people are not introduced to their potential. And again, we're talking about living on the edge, living on the very edge of your potential. It's being able to continually get out of your comfort zone and live on the edge of your potential. Because if I know anything about potential continues to grow the more that you push its boundaries, right? Because the truth comes down to it is that nobody really knows who you are and what you're capable of. But everything that you are and that you're capable of is deposited already on the inside of you. And so when people say you've got so much potential, when people say you're so talented, they're only using a past tense construct to identify what they've seen in your life. But they don't know really how big and how successful you really can be. Potential is really actualized when you live on the edge of possibility, when you live on the edge of your comfort zone, when you live on the edge of all that you're capable of. And so in this episode, I want to push you. I want to push you to begin living on the edge of your potential. And if you've never been introduced to your potential, I'd like to create the space on this episode for you to do just that. I'd like to introduce you to your potential. I like to create this mysterious meeting for you. Justin, what are you talking about? What mysterious meeting are you talking about? So Rusty Burkus says this. He says that there comes that mysterious meeting in life when someone acknowledges who you are and what you can be, and they begin to ignite the circuits of our highest potential. I'm going to repeat that again because that was so good. Let me rewind it. Let me repeat that again. There comes that mysterious meeting in life. And I believe this is that meeting for you if you have yet to really have the potential and you fire it up and ignite it. But there comes that mysterious meeting in life when someone acknowledges who you are and what you can be. And when someone acknowledges who you are and what you can be, they begin to ignite the circuits of your highest potential. Often the reason why you haven't been able to maximize and really live out your potential is because some of us don't have people in our lives that have been able to pour in and help ignite the potential on the inside of us. I am so thankful that I've had in my life people who have come alongside me and have seen the gifts, that have affirmed the gifts in me and affirmed what they've seen as my unique advantage or unique difference in the world. And they have helped cultivate those things in my life. And so I want to be that person for you. I may not know you. You may not be somebody that I talk to on a daily basis, but that does not mean that I cannot affirm the potential that's already inside of you. Because if you're starting to think, if you're really listening to this podcast from your heart, this potential and the things that you can accomplish and who you are, your skill set, your ability, your talent, those things will begin to boil up to the surface if they haven't already for you. And because the thing that I know about potential is just seed. And it's already inside you, ready to come out. Everything that you want out of life is already deposited on the inside of you. And the whole essence of potential is that it's everything that you need is already there. But potential can be like a muscle that's yet to be flexed, right? It can be like a muscle that's yet to be fired up, a muscle that's yet to be expanded, right? When we go work out, if you're avid, if you go to the gym consistently, what you know is that our muscles have the ability to expand. They have the ability to grow. But they cannot grow until you put them under intense pressure. And when you put them under intense endurance and you push, they call it muscle endurance. And after a while, your muscles begin to build endurance, so much so that your muscles even have its own memory, right? You have muscle memory, you have muscle endurance, right? But your muscles can continue to grow at the level that you continue to push them and stretch them. So when you are working out, let's call it a bench press or let's call it a curl, where you are doing bench pressing and curls or anything like that, what your muscles are doing is your muscles are stretching and they're actually expanding. And truly, it's actually separating the muscle so that as it's healing, and that's where the pain that we get, that's like that lactic acid that starts to build up in our muscles. As our muscles are healing, they're getting stronger. The same thing is true with your potential. If you never push yourself, if you never put who you are under intense pressure, if you never push yourself to the limits, if you never go all in on one thing, if you never dedicate all of who you are to one thing, then you will really have a challenge with understanding what your true potential is and maximizing who you're really placed on earth to be. And so I'm going to encourage you today that don't just stay at potential. Don't just stay the kind of person that lives in potential, that lives as the person that, man, this person could always be this, or this person was always talented at this. How about we start to live a life today of maximizing and living on the edge of our potential? And so a lot of you, who you are is based on what you've seen around you, what you've seen framed up for you. It helps build the belief in what's possible. If you've never seen anyone up close become wealthy, it may be hard for you to really become wealthy. If you've never seen someone around you have a successful marriage, it may be a challenge for you to have a successful marriage. If you've never seen someone live financially free, it may be hard for you to really conceptualize and have the belief that you too can live financially free. So a lot of how we frame up what we do is based on the beliefs that we have. And the beliefs that we have are typically framed up based on what we've seen, our experiences, our environment, what we've seen possible, what we've seen be done around us, right? And so if any of you, and Les Brown talks about this quite a bit. He uses this as a part of a lot of his messages, but he talks about Roger Bannister. So 67 years ago, Roger Bannister became a legend and broke the 4-minute mile. Prior to, and this was in track, right? This is just track and field and long distance running. Prior to Roger, nobody had ever done it, and this had shaped the lens of possibility. So up until Roger broke the 4-minute mile, there had been plenty of people that attempted and tried to themselves break the 4-minute mile. But once Roger broke the 4-minute mile, tens of thousands of people would go on to break the 4-minute mile record. They would go on to break that 4-minute mile. Why? Because for the first time, people finally seen the possibility, because it took one person to show what was truly possible. Runners all over the world just needed the permission that it was okay to break the 4-minute mile, that it was okay to do what may in hindsight had seemed impossible. When somebody finally did it, now everyone else realized that it was actually possible and they too could do it. And so for a lot of us, our potential is not maximized. We don't live on the edge of our potential because we don't have permission to do so. And I'm giving you permission in this episode to live maxed out, to live all that you can be, to live on the edge of your potential. Because I'm telling you that it's okay really to be all God has called you to be. To end this episode, really, I'd like to give you 4 tips, right? Or maybe even 5. I'd like to give you some tips that'll help you arise, and build the kind of life that you want to build, right? To pull out what's already deep inside of you. Because I don't want to just speak a message, hype you up, talking about potential, talking about you living on the edge of your potential, and not give you some real actions and some real tips that I've had to deploy in my life and that I constantly deploy in my life to try my best to live fully to my potential. This is something, guys, that I'm always thinking about for myself is like, am I really living my potential? Am I really doing the best that I could do? Am I really showing up in these areas of my life, right? And so let me give you tip one. Tip one is it's time to take the risk. Unforeseen opportunities may arise, and when you take risk, it builds confidence, and you begin to develop new skills and spurts of creativity, right? What's the worst thing that can happen? It's time for you to make a decision today that you're going to take some kind of risk in your life. It's hard to live in potential. It's hard to really live in purpose and promise if you never decide to get out of your box, if you never decide to get out of your comfort zone. So tip one is find something and take the risk. Go ahead and take some risk today. Tip two is have faith. Man, this is so important. Pray consistently. I need you praying. Connect with people whose belief you can borrow until you have your own. This is so important. For so much of my life, and still to this day, have to borrow other people's belief until my belief finally matches what I can do for myself. It's kind of like the becoming an echo before you become a voice. So when I was really just starting my personal development journey, I really became an echo. I really listened to like Eric Thomas. I listened to a lot of Les Brown, and I still do. And those are kind of like the people that I listened to a lot. And because they were so much in my ear gate, I listened to them so much. When I talked, I almost like sounded like them, right? And so, but it was okay. It's okay to become an echo before you become a voice. And the same thing is true about belief. It's okay for you to echo someone else's belief about you until you can get your own belief about you. This is why it's so important to have people that believe in you often more than you may even believe in yourself. I don't know anyone that's been able to accomplish anything significant without having somebody's belief. And it may not be someone local. It may not be somebody close to you. It may not be a family member, but it could simply be somebody that you've seen accomplish that, and you've borrowed their confidence. You've borrowed their grit. You've borrowed their determination. And so connect your belief with theirs and borrow somebody else's belief until you begin to have and create your own belief. Tip 3 is block out the naysayers, block out the haters, right? Surround yourself with only positive people. I believe Les Brown calls it only quality people, OQP. Surround yourself with only quality people. I'm just saying surround yourself with only positive people. Surround yourself with enablers, people that will enable you to do things that may be uncomfortable, that enable you to take the risk, that enable you to be all that you can be. And be selective about who you share your wildest dreams with. Guys, I have been so discouraged by telling my ideas to people that they may have not intentionally said like, oh, that could never happen, but they have made a comment about that idea, or they made a comment about that dream, or they may have even critiqued it. And that critique for me meant no, or that critique to me meant it wasn't possible. And so I say that because I believe it's so important that when you are finally getting outside of your box and when you're finally starting to take this next step and become all that you called to be and live on the edge of your potential, you have to be so careful on who you allow to speak into your life, right? And you can't allow the people that will shoot down your dreams, that will be critical. Like, stop having pessimistic people around you. Stop having people who always want to play the devil's advocate around you. I don't need no devil advocate around me. I don't need nobody that's advocating for the devil around me, right? I don't need critics. I don't need criticism. I don't need people who are always trying to critique my own life and they're not doing their thing, right, to build their own life, right? And so tip 4, and we're flowing through this. Tip 4 is become clear on your purpose. What fires you up the most? What activity or acts could you never get tired of doing, right? What strong skills or attributes do you have? And don't be afraid to get feedback from people closest to you. I believe I talked about this in a previous episode, how I believe it's so important to ask the people around you aspects that you trust. Ask people that you trust and that you believe have your best interest at heart. Not the naysayers, but the enablers, the people that are really pour into your life and want to see you do great things. Ask them if you're having struggle clearing up what your unique purpose is and what uniquely you do. people around you already know, and they probably already lean and depend on you for those reasons. They probably already look to you for guidance in those areas. Are you somebody that people are always bringing financial advice to, or they're always asking for financial advice? Are you somebody where people are always asking you to help them with strategy? Are you somebody that people just need to vent to and they just need a listening ear? Pay attention to those things. How do people already use you today? How do people already leverage their relationship with you today? Is super important. And then the last one here is personal confidence. Listen, confidence is one of those things that I think it's extremely hard to build confidence until you build competence, right? Competence is the ability to do something well and doing it the right way. I believe you get that confidence in you by actually being competent at something. And so the more competent you can be, the more confidence you will get. And so begin to stack up wins, begin to stack up things in your life that you do well at. Begin to stay in that zone. Stop focusing on building up your strengths or your weaknesses and focus on expanding your strengths, right? Tame your inner critic and believe in the power of yet. There's so much power in yet. I don't have it yet. I didn't accomplish it yet. I don't make that much money yet. There's so much power in the yet. There's so much power in the, hey, I'm not there now, but I will be soon, right? And just really building that personal confidence and build the relationship you have with yourself. To be a confident person, which I believe is a necessary trait in order to really walk out and live on the edge of your purpose or your edge of your potential, because you're going to have to walk in rooms boldly. You're going to have to talk to people in a way that you become convicting around your gifts and your abilities, right? And I believe confidence is important, but it's hard to be confident when you haven't built the proper relationship with yourself, right? And so take the time, worry about self-care, worry about building the trust that you have with yourself, right? Stop letting yourself down. I believe in a previous episode, we talked about, what is your relationship with you? And if it's easier to let people down than it is to let yourself down, then you could have a fractured and flawed relationship with yourself. And so build a relationship that you have with yourself. I think is super important. Okay. All right, everyone. So that is all I've got for you today. Listen, I'm super excited for all that we've done in this podcast in 2021. But even more excited for where this podcast is going to go in 2022. Again, we're continuing to expand. We're continuing to get better. We're continuing to level up. And I thank you for being with us in this podcast. Thank you for checking us out in another episode. And again, life is all about the pivots, and those who decide to make life's pivots decide to become successful. Peace.